right, hey guys, so we are here at Confluence. Confluence had won the Best of Phoenix Award in all of the Valley as one of the top restaurants in the Metro Phoenix area, but it's still tucked away. It's still kind of one of the best kept secrets because people don't really know a lot of your menu, and it's a very unique menu. Joined by Brandon, who owns Confluence. We've got Tori also. Tori is kind of manages the store, so to speak, but we're going to go through and we're here in the kitchen. Brandon, what are we cooking today?
Today we're going to cook a risotto dish that's currently on the menu.
Okay.
And then we're going to garnish it with some interests. So kind of a traditional Italian dish, but with a little bit of a twist. So we have some black garlic and things of that nature in it that you wouldn't typically see.
Wonderful. And I want to be as handy as possible, so whatever I can do without actually hurting myself or anybody else or burning the place down, you're going to let me get involved in. So let's get started. What do we need to do first?
First, we're going to start with a neutral oil. So we use canola oil for just about all of our searing purposes. We're sweating onions, things of that nature. So this is just neutral oil, canola oil, and we're going to let that heat up a little bit. And then to that, we're going to start our risotto with onions. So we're starting to build that flavor base right off the bat.
Nice.
So we're going to reach behind you here and get some onions.
Okay. Oh, look at that. Great.
So these are just some relatively finely diced onions.
Okay.
They don't need to be too crazy.
All right.
So we'll start with that. And we're just going to sweat our onions out until they're translucent.
Now you said sweat them out.
Yep.
Okay. Sweating out the onions.
So just a slow cook on these, medium heat.
Okay.
Again, just till they're translucent. And again, we're going to start adding salt right off the bat.
Okay.
So that we can develop that flavor as we go. So kind of every step of the way, as we add an ingredient to the dish, we're going to add enough salt to season that particular ingredient.
Now here's a question I have for you. How do you prevent the onions from having that strong odor, and how do you prevent the onions from making you tear?
Well, we do everything as fresh as possible. So these were just cut maybe 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
So in doing so, you know, as onions get older, then they start to get stronger and things of that nature.
Okay.
So by making everything really fresh, we kind of eliminate that. We also use sweet onions, which you typically are going to get a little less of that bite with a Vidalia onion than you would with maybe a yellow onion.
Got it.
So we're going to add, and we use just kosher salt. So just a little kosher salt to our onions.
Okay.
And then we're just going to sweat this a little bit, continue to stir until our onions get a little bit translucent.
All right.
While that's happening, we can kind of talk about our next ingredient. So the rice that we use to make our risotto is carnaroli rice. So this is an Italian brand called Acquarello. And the reason we use this particular rice is because it's a highly polished rice. So you can see every grain of rice is going to be exactly the same because they've polished the outside down until all that's left is the very center of that rice. So in doing so, as we cook it, it's going to cook really evenly.
Yeah.
And then we're not going to get broken rice in our final product. So that's kind of the key. And
Very
also
interesting.
the starch content.
Yeah, texture and everything else. So, okay. And this is available on the supermarket shelf?
Maybe not that brand, but yeah, carnaroli rice is readily available.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And certainly you can order it online. Amazon has it.
Amazon? Wow. Okay.
And then one of the other keys to not breaking the rice kernels is a rubber spatula or a wooden spoon. So always going to use one of those two, including the serving process. We're not going to stick a metal spoon or anything in there at any time.
Okay.
Again, because we don't want to break those rice kernels. There's garbage right there.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Great.
So now that our onions are starting to get a little translucent there,
Okay.
we're going to add our rice. And then we're going to do equal parts rice to wine. So we're going to start, for what we're going to do here today, we're going to use, that was about 2 tablespoons of onion, half a cup of carnaroli rice, and then we're going to toast the rice in that oil with the onion for a minute. And then we're going to add half a cup of white wine to that.
Interesting. Wow, half a cup of white wine. So not only is it for drinking, but it is for cooking. So.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, do you drink while you cook?
If I can, I certainly do.
Okay, all right.
But I try to keep that to a minimum.
Okay, and not at work? Okay, all right.
That's mostly for home.
Yes, okay. All right.
So once you start to toast your rice, you kind of know it's ready from the sweet aroma that you start to get off of it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking for here. So, and again, you want to start with enough canola oil, not just to coat those onions when you're sweating the onions, but once you add your rice, you want it to coat all the rice as well without having to add more oil to kind of slow down the cooking process. So you want to keep everything hot as you go. And then, like I said earlier, as we add each ingredient, we're going to add enough kosher salt to kind of season that particular ingredient. And that's how we build our flavors
now,
as we go.
The difference between cooking rice traditionally, you know, the minute rice, you know, in the water versus doing it, is it crunchier? Are we using oil as opposed to, you know, traditionally dousing it with water and having it absorb and then evaporate, and where it's softer?
The key here, we are going to end up, because it's risotto, we're going to start adding stock here pretty quickly.
Okay.
And that's going to be the cooking liquid. But what we're looking for risotto is that constant stirring motion, and that's what's going to yield a really creamy result when we're done.
All right.
So now that our rice is toasted, we'll go ahead and we'll add that half cup of white wine. And then when you're cooking with any alcohol, for the most part, you want to make sure that you're cooking all that alcohol off before you do your next step. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of, again, the stirring is key to developing that starch so you get a really nice creamy product in the end. So now that we've added our white wine, we have our liquid in there, and now from this point forward, we're going to continuously stir until we're finished with the process. So right now, we're just reducing that wine down.
Okay.
And as soon as the wine is reduced au sec or dry, that's when we're going to start ladling our hot stock into it. And we're going to use poultry stock for this dish. We buy all of our poultry locally, and we get whole birds, so that means we always have feet, heads, necks, livers, hearts, gizzards, and I'll use a lot of those things. Almost all of the offal meats or the innards will end up in the stock. And then I typically will take half of the bones and roast them and leave half of them raw. So you end up with this really rich stock, just based on all of the offal that we put in it more than anything else.
That's quite the variety of parts of a bird that you guys use that you don't typically find in a restaurant. So I can't say that actually I take that back. As a kid, my parents, who are from Italy, they used to make a lot of those things, and then they would tell us they were other things.
Of course.
Yes. Yeah, especially around Easter time, our bunnies that we had as pets for a couple of months all of a sudden would disappear, and my parents said they ran away. And then we had chicken for dinner. So anyway, yeah. Yes. Okay. So wow, the texture is really starting to thicken there, and it's absorbing into the rice. So
absolutely. So
yes.
You can see, you're already starting to get that creamy starchiness into the wine as the wine reduces.
Can we take a look at that, just so our viewing audience can see just how? Yeah.
So you can see it's starting to thicken.
Okay. Yes. Yes, it is. All right. Great. Now you've been here at this location for what, a couple of years now, right?
3 years, yeah.
3 years, and that award that you got for the Best of Phoenix, it happened fairly quick. So how was that process? Was there a nomination process? What did you have to wine and dine someone from the media here, or how did that work? Was it just random? Somebody walked in and they said, "Oh my gosh, this is the best I've ever had of whatever they had," and
that was for Phoenix Magazine. So it's their food critic, Nikki Buchanan, came in a handful of times. I think probably 3 times.
Okay.
But you never know when she's coming. You don't. There's no heads up involved or anything. She comes in, she orders off the menu, and then if she likes you, she writes a good review. And if she doesn't,
well, I'll say. I mean, of all the restaurants here in the Valley, to be picked as the best, particularly since you weren't open that long.
We were actually the best new restaurant.
Best new restaurant.
Yeah.
So amazing. Now, what was the dish that ended up winning you that award?
It wasn't any one particular dish. It was just all a culmination of everything she had ordered. Again, in maybe 2 to 3 visits that she made up here.
Okay.
So now that our wine is reduced, now we're going to start adding our stock.
Okay.
Again, this is that chicken stock, and we want it to be hot Yeah, not to slow down or stump the cooking process.
The chicken stock, is that just like a basic a broth that somebody use, just a chicken broth?
Yep, exactly. It's chicken broth, unseasoned chicken broth.
Okay, all right. Do you have a favorite on the menu?
It changes as often as the menu changes. So we change things pretty frequently. Every week we try to do 1 or 2 new dishes on the menu.
Every week?
So, yep. Right now, this is certainly one of my favorite dishes, but again, it'll be gone in a couple of weeks. I just think risotto is such a great dish. It's really comforting, it's really hearty.
Yeah.
And with, again, all the kind of interesting ingredients that we're going to garnish it with, I think it makes for a really spectacular dish. And again, it's those different ingredients that we're going to use to garnish that's going to make it different than what maybe somebody else in the area is doing. Again, it's just that constant stirring.
So, okay, so let's go on the other extreme then. The one constant that's on your menu that people really enjoy, would you say?
For the dinner menu, we actually do 2 different styles of dining here between our lunch and our dinner menu. So on the dinner menu, there is nothing that's constant. Everything changes. There's going to be some structure to it. For instance, we're always going to have a salad. We're always going to have a steak. So there's a couple things like that are kind of a general outline. But beyond that, there's no one particular dish that stays all the time. Everything's fair game. We change things. We work with local farmers as often as we can. And just in general, produce season changes month to month.
It's amazing that you're very open-minded that way, because it can drive somebody mad to have to to constantly change if they're creatures of habit. But
sure.
Here at Confluence, you roll with what happens to be good seasonally, as well as what you think might appeal to your clientele.
Yeah, and it's really important to be flexible if you want to be able to use, for example, the local sugar snap pea season goes for about 2 weeks, and that's it. So if you really want to showcase an ingredient like that, you really need to be flexible and be able to change your menu frequently so that you can put something on when you have it, and then after 2 weeks when it's gone, it's time to move on to something else.
So I'm new. Okay, so let's pretend I'm new to the area and I want to go someplace that has really great dinners or great lunches for that matter, one or the other, and my friends tell me about Confluence. What are my friends going to say about Confluence that are regulars here?
Again, it's those interesting ingredients that maybe nobody else up here is using, and then the frequency in which we change. And then for dinner, we do tasting menus as well. So I think that's a great opportunity. Yeah, we offer 4, 5, 6, and then a 7-course chef's tasting menu. So you have the opportunity to come up. You can order a la carte if you just want to come in and order 1 or 2 things. That's perfectly fine. But if you want to be able to try a lot of different things across the menu, you can come in and get a chef's tasting menu. Is the best way to do it.
Okay.
And then you can try cold appetizers, hot appetizers, some fish entrees, meat entrees, and then transition into dessert. So you really get an incredibly well-rounded experience that way, and you get to try a lot of different things.
Okay, so now with the chicken stock, what you're continuing to stir. At what point do you add the next ingredient?
We are going to continue to cook with the stock. We're going to cook this down until it's the right consistency, and then we'll check it for doneness. If the rice is cooked, then we will start adding butter and cheese.
Okay.
And if it needs to cook a little more, we'll just add a little more stock to it, and we can keep going that way. This should be pretty close to where we want to be. That was 1 cup of chicken stock. So by the time we get this cooked down to a thicker consistency, it should be pretty much where we want it to be, to where we can start adding our whole butter and our Parmesan Reggiano.
Got it.
And back to your previous question, so the difference between lunch and dinner, our lunch menu is a lot more casual. We have sandwiches, salads, and then there are things on the lunch menu that we leave consistent because people really enjoy them and they want to be able to come back for them. And that's kind of a way that we can try to appease both those crowds. Yeah. People who want to try something adventurous and come in and try different things all the time can come in at dinner. And if you really want to come in and have great fried chicken, then we do that all the time as well, but just at a different time of day. So our fried chicken and our chicken sandwiches are maybe 2 of the staples off of the lunch menu that are always there that people really enjoy.
How many years have you been a chef?
Oh boy, I started washing dishes when I was 14 years old.
Wow.
I started cooking when I was 15, and I'm 39 years old now. So,
okay,
yeah, a couple years.
And how long have you and Tori been at this together?
Tori and I, well, as a partnership, just over 3 years, but
okay.
Tori and I have been together for about 13 years now.
You guys, you guys fight a lot?
No.
No? Not even back in the kitchen if something is going wrong?
No.
Or no? Wow. Come on, there must be something. Yeah. Okay. Disagreement? Nothing. Yeah. So you guys stay in your own lanes. You do what you need to do back here. She manages everything else.
Yep.
Okay.
We try to keep it simple.
Okay, good. All right. Good, good. Okay. All right. Well, try to dig a little bit. That's okay. Okay, so you talked about the need to be flexible, to change things, and that's kind of what helped put you on the map as well, to really take advantage of what you have in the area and in a particular season and everything else. So, okay, all right. Let's talk about appetizers and desserts. What are some things that you guys do really well there? Or that are popular items, I should say, because you do everything really well.
Thank you. I think maybe our most interesting dessert right now that's on the menu is a spiced plum dessert. So again, it's stone fruit season, plums, peaches, everything's really gorgeous right now. So we're focusing on the plums, and we're taking them and peeling them, splitting them in half, and then we cook them sous vide, so in a vacuum bag at 190 degrees specifically until they're just tender. And one of the ideas behind the sous vide cooking is first you have your temperature, so you've got your perfect cook temp, but beyond that, it helps infuse things and infuse flavors into the product really well. So to do the plums, we put a little bit of simple syrup in there, just sugar and water.
Okay.
And then to that we add allspice, clove, and star anise. And it's pretty heavy on the star anise, so you get a really nice spiced syrup that the plums are then poached in the bag. And then we serve that over top a black pepper oat crumble.
Wow.
So you can think kind of like the topping for an apple crisp, that sort of thing. But it's really heavy on black pepper. And then on the very bottom of the bowl we have some matcha creme anglaise, so a powdered green tea. So again, it's this fusion of kind of Japanese flavors, and maybe like with the black pepper oat crumble, it's very reminiscent of kind of an American dessert. So it really blends well together. And then that's garnished with cherries, kumquats, and mint leaf.
Oh, very good.
So you've got a lot of different flavors, a lot of different textures, and that goes over really
So
well.
now, obviously, the idea is to get people to come into the restaurant to really take advantage of what you do here. But what are some things maybe people need to watch out for, you know, some common mistakes when cooking, just some tips that you can give on that front?
I think probably for the home cook, just seasoning in general is probably the most important and the most common, and specifically acid. I think a lot of people cook without acid, and you really need to have
So give us an example.
a good combination.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be vinegar, it could be citrus juice, something of that nature.
Okay.
You know, depending on what the season and what the dish is. We're going to finish this dish with lemon juice, so that's going to be our acid.
Okay.
If it was going to be something, maybe a beef cheek ragu or something heartier, I would use red wine vinegar.
Okay.
Acid base for that. So a lot of people season with salt and pepper.
Yeah.
Not enough people season with acid.
So if I'm doing something very simple, I'm just going to my cabinet and taking out a can of ragu, you're suggesting a little bit of red wine vinegar.
Absolutely. It
Really?
really brings out the flavor.
I never knew that.
Really, it really brightens the dish up. That's kind of the idea. And then with something like this that's going to have a lot of butter, a lot of cheese in it, that's also going to help kind of cut through the fat a little bit as well.
Okay.
So acid cuts through fat, and that's awfully helpful. So we're getting really close on our consistency here. So what we can do to check the doneness is just take single grain of rice here, and you can just kind of break it open.
Oh, look at that.
So you can see it's still raw in the very center.
Yeah.
And it's about half cooked right now. So we're going to need to go just a little bit further.
Okay.
So instead of a full ladle, we'll add about 2-3 ounces. And then we'll keep stirring.
Yeah, and we've been at this probably, what, 10 minutes? And
it's a constant.
We're not quite there yet.
Constant
so I guess,
process.
You know, the people that sold minute rice were kind of selling us, yeah, little mistruth. Okay, so let's talk about your staff, because I'm curious, because you've got a pretty good group of people here that, and you do a lot yourself, but you obviously can't do it all on your own. Tell us a little bit about your staff. So if I'm coming in, who am I going to meet?
Well, right now, coming out of COVID especially, and then beyond that, just coming out of summer, you know, for a long time during COVID, it was really just Tori and myself here. And then we've slowly started to add staff, getting ready for season again.
Okay.
So we have Weston behind me here, and
Hey, Weston.
he takes care of all of our veg prep for us.
Yeah.
So he takes care of all the blanched vegetables as well as raw garnish, picking micro arugula and chopping parsley and blanching haricot vert, broccolini, picking fava beans, all those sorts of things he takes care of. And then for the front of the house.
Now, Weston, you treat him well?
I like to think so. What do you think, Wes?
He's making faces back there, so I tend to worry, especially if he's behind you, you can't see what's going on. Okay. No, he's friendly. So, all right, so that's Weston. Okay, who else do we have?
So right now, that's all we have in the kitchen.
Oh,
it's just the two of us. We're only open 4 days a week right now. Again, summer hours, so it's just the two of us Wednesday through Saturday. And then front of the house, currently Victoria is the only person working in the dining room every day.
Okay.
But again, we are looking currently for all positions.
Okay, so not only is this a cooking segment, but it's also a job application posting. All right. So when you get into your fall and winter hours, how are those going to change?
We add Tuesdays and we continue to stay closed on Sundays and Mondays.
Okay.
Tori and I have 2 little boys, a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Oh.
So it's really important to us that we get to spend time with our family.
Yeah.
They're both old enough to be in school now, so Sunday's really important. And then Monday's a good day where they go to school and Tori and I get to spend a lot of time together. So lunch and dinner, Tuesday through Saturday. Our lunch service starts at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And then we stop seating for lunch at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Got it.
And then we start seating for dinner at 5 o'clock, and we stop seating for dinner at 9 o'clock.
Okay, so you've got a couple of hours of prep time for getting ready for dinner from when, your lunch menu shuts down, you close the doors, and then you start getting everything ready for dinner. Okay.
Exactly. Really important for us to be able to come in the morning, spend a couple hours preparing for lunch service.
Okay.
And then once we're set up for lunch service, we will transition into prepping for dinner and then cooking for our lunch guests as they come in. And then we need that time so that we can, again, because it is 2 different menus, it's really important that we have the time that it takes to basically take everything off the line and reset completely for the dinner menu.
You obviously, working in this community, you draw a lot of repeat business. Do I need reservations if I'm new coming in?
You don't necessarily need reservations, especially on the slower days of the week, but we always recommend reservations so that we know what to expect, and that makes things a lot easier for us to plan in terms of ordering and prep. Again, we have a lot of things that are prepped every single day. We prep small quantities. We try to keep everything really fresh. So if we know you're coming, we have less likelihood that we're going to run out of things and have to scramble to make it happen for you. Or on the flip side of it, we don't want to over prep and then throw away a bunch of ingredients at the end of the day either. So
agreed. What's the thing you use the most of here, you think?
I don't know that I could pick one particular thing, again, because things change so often.
Okay.
Kind of some of the stuff that you would expect. I mean, right now we have filet mignon on the menu, so we probably sell more filet mignon than anything else on the menu. It's just kind of what you think.
I've had that. It's very good. So, okay, another question I have for you. You talk about fresh ingredients. Your seafood. I mean, it's people go to the freezer section at Costco, and you got to thaw it out for like a week to get it. I mean, where does your stuff come from? Obviously, the ocean, but you have a supplier. When was it caught? To when it actually gets served.
I work with a local company called Jet Fresh, owned by James Miliotes, and again, it kind of depends on what it is. There are a handful of products that can actually be improved by freezing. Things that are going to be tough, like right now, cuttlefish we have on the menu, which would be similar to, say, calamari. So I actually want to buy that frozen because when it freezes, it's going to freeze the water, expand the cells, break them, and tenderize it a little bit, which is great. Other things I would never buy frozen, so my fresh fish, right now I have striped bass and scallops as my other two fish that are on the menu. So the fresh scallops come from the East Coast. We work with a particular boat called Viking Village, and James gets scallops for me. He gets them in a couple times a week, so I place my orders on Saturday before I leave, and then when I get here on Wednesday, I have fresh product. He's had a couple days to plan, so he can get it in for me Tuesday, and then bring it to me on Wednesday.
Can you taste the difference from something that's been frozen for a while that as opposed to
100%,
literally out of water?
fish.
Yeah.
Again, what happens when you freeze fish is it's going to freeze all the water into ice. It's going to expand, and it's going to actually break the cells inside the fillet. So then when it thaws, anyone who's thawed frozen fish, you end up with your fish in a puddle of water. Well, I want all that water to stay in the fish. And when you have fresh fish, it's going to stay in the fillet. When you freeze it, it's going to all come out. So you're going to end up with a completely different product.
Okay.
All right, so we're back down to where we were again.
All right.
Texturally.
Okay.
I think we're going to be there. We're just going to do the same thing. Take our one kernel of rice, and just pinch it in half. So we just barely have a little bit of an eye there, which would be perfect.
Okay, can we get a look at that?
Yep. So that's kind of the consistency we're looking for at this point.
Sure.
And now
it's almost like an oatmeal, almost like
absolutely.
All right.
And now we're going to start adding. So right behind you, I have our whole butter in the drawer here.
Okay. Whole butter. So actual real butter. It's not like margarine or any other.
No, you want that full fat butter to get the flavor and the creamy effect that we're looking for.
Okay.
And we're not going to be shy with our butter at all here.
Yeah, it looks almost like Swiss cheese. Like it's very, I mean, you've got to chop it. It's not, okay. Look at that.
And then, again, just continue to stir.
Okay.
Once we have melted and emulsified all of our butter into the risotto, then we'll add our cheese. With the idea that once you boil cheese, it can become grainy.
Yeah.
So with our Parmesan, we want to add it at the very end so that we don't end up with a grainy texture from cheese that has been heated too much.
It doesn't look like you have very many calories in that.
No, this is a very healthy, very light dish.
Yeah. So once that is all broken up and the consistency is such that you don't have those puddles in there, what's the next step?
Next, we're going to add our cheese.
Okay.
And then at that point, we will be ready to start garnishing. And then two of the components in the dish, are going to be Chicos and asparagus.
Okay.
So Chicos are a New Mexican ingredient, and what they are dried smoked corn. So we've taken the dried smoked corn and we just cook it in salted water to come back and kind of reconstitute it. And
may I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me take a look here. So as you can see here, just kernels of corn essentially. All right, great.
And then we have our asparagus. So we've got the bases that we've peeled and blanched, and then we have just the tips for garnish as well.
Okay.
So with this, we're just going to add again just a little shot of our red wine vinegar.
Okay.
And then a little bit of vegetable stock. A little salt.
Now, if I'm buying vinegar, are they all the same? Is there a brand of vinegar that maybe is not overly expensive, or that I can buy that to add that kind of seasoning that you had talked about?
There's a huge variety the vinegar itself was made from.
Okay.
And then there's a huge assortment of brands as well. But for what we're doing, in terms of seasoning, you saw we're talking about something that takes 1 or 2 drops. So it doesn't need to be the most expensive vinegar out there. If you're going to do something that's heavy on vinegar, like make pickles and things like that, I think that's a better place to maybe spend a little bit more money on a higher end vinegar. Okay. But if you're going to make vinaigrettes, things like that, where it really comes through in a salad dressing, and that flavor of the vinegar itself is really important, we're looking for just the acidity more than anything else in this particular application.
Okay.
So it's not quite as important. So you can see we've got a nice creamy buttery risotto.
All right.
Now this is ready for our Parmesan cheese. This is Parmesan Reggiano, and we just dice it up and then grind it up in a food processor, so it's relatively fine.
Okay.
Just gonna add a couple spoons of that. And again, at this point, now we just want to melt that cheese. We're not trying to boil it. That's a good consistency. That's what we're looking for. You can see all the individual rice grains are suspended. Very creamy. And then we are ready for the bowl. Okay, we're not going to transition into a metal spoon or anything because we don't want to break up those individual rice kernels. Wow. Top. This is our asparagus and our chicos. Just gonna scatter this around. You can really smell that nice smokiness off the chicos.
Yeah, I know people can't
sweet,
at home
smoky.
can't, but it is really good. It smells really good. Wow.
And then for the rest of our garnish, this is pancetta. It's
Okay.
been ground up and then cooked down to be nice and crispy. So we're going to sprinkle a little crispy pancetta on top. Now it's going to add a little texture, a little salty, porky flavor.
All right, here's the acid.
Our lemon.
Okay.
We're
Oh,
going to
look
first
at that. Grate a little.
zest a little bit
Yeah.
with a microplaner. And then we'll take just a little wedge. Squeeze. And just a little of that fresh juice on the top. This is going to give us a nice, clean
And I
acid.
can smell that. That is quite the fragrance.
And then when you microplane zest like that, you release all the essential oils that are in there. It really comes through.
Okay, what are
And then
these?
we have two different products here. This is going to be a black garlic puree. So black garlic is a fermented garlic. And this has been cooked down in water with salt and red wine vinegar and made into a puree. So we're going to do this one first. And we're just going to cut the very tip of our bag off. And then we're just going to use this to put little black spots on the dish.
Wow.
Black garlic is a very strong flavor. It's got kind of a sweet, nutty flavor to it. So we don't want to overdo it.
Yeah.
So again, just those couple little dots.
Scare away some vampires.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then this is egg yolk that has been cooked sous vide at 155 degrees for about an hour.
Now, what does that mean?
So what that does is it cooks you'll see the texture, it cooks the egg yolk until it's a creamy texture.
Interesting. So if it's like cheese. So if I say to my wife, honey, if she says, I want to make you some eggs for breakfast, and I say, honey, I want it sous vide like Brandon does, what is she going to say to me?
She's probably going to tell you to make it herself, if I had to guess.
Okay.
But yeah, we just separate the yolks from the whites.
Yeah.
And then we cook the yolks all by themselves in a bag, again, 155 degrees for an hour. And then it comes out that really creamy texture, which is really fun.
Wow.
And then we puree with a little bit of truffle oil as well.
Okay.
And then the last thing we need, and so we started with onion, and we're going to kind of finish with onion too. So just a little bit of fresh chive. Just kind of clean up.
All right, Miss Alonso.
Oh, look at
I
that.
better on you.
And this is Tori, by the way. This is the first person that you meet when you walk into Confluence. So whatever day she's having, she's going to let you know right away. And usually it's a good day because whenever I see her, she's always smiling.
Well, good. That's good to hear.
Yes,
Good.
yes. Okay, so try some of this. Okay, and I will try to get a little bit of everything as folks at home can see.
Nice. Way to go.
Oh my God. I'm going to take this home. Thank you so much. This is so good.
Thank you.
Wow. So come to Confluence. Open 4 days a week right now. What are the hours?
Right now we are doing lunch from 11 to 2.
11 to 2.
Dinner from 5 to 9.
5 to 9. So you're open Wednesday through Sunday right now.
Saturday.
Through Saturday until September.
The beginning of October.
Beginning of October, and then you will back to Tuesday. So Tuesday through Saturday
Yep.
till the beginning of or after the beginning of October. Okay. Thank you so much, guys.